Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, fellow academic researchers. I'm Miles Geetsman, here at the conference chair. We're very pleased in the accounting department here at Bocconi University to welcome you all to the university. We're particularly pleased to see how many PhD students are from Europe and how active this shows the research agenda is within Europe in accounting research. Besides welcoming you, the other thing I'd like to just say is we're in a very exciting time for accounting. There are major changes going on with new technologies like blockchain, and we'll be talking about that a little bit at the plenary session. The other thing is to say recruitment. I think we have now a far more deeper recruitment market for PhD students in Europe. And over the last 4 years, every year we have recruited an assistant professor, and we hope for the foreseeable future that we'll be continuing that practice. And so I hope you get the chance to see Milan, Bocconi, see what the environment is like. And hopefully we'll see some of you in Madrid in November this year or next year. Thank you very much.
So also welcome from me. I'm Philip Joos. I'm the president of the EAA and also one of the people organizing this session together with Torsten Selhorn sitting in front. Welcome from me, and I would also like to introduce to you also a little bit the format because we have used this format for the last 6 years. It's the 6th time that we organize this PhD forum. The format is that we have a plenary session, and then of course we have these 3 breakout sessions. Practically, so the plenary session is here in this room. There is one session on textual analysis led by Thies de Kok that will be in this room. The 2 other sessions that you can see on the schedule, but you cannot see on the schedule because it's below. But we have the session on Bayesian statistics and Bayesian statistics accounting research. That will be across the hallway here. And then the session on audit research, that's at the end of the hallway on your left here. You go to the right and you follow straight the hallway to the end, and there you have an auditorium. It's the Aula 11, and that's where the audit session is. So it's a little bit more challenging, but that's what audit research is all about. Okay? Let me tell you something else. Apart from organizing this PhD forum, this is part of the whole ambition of the European Accounting Association to invest a lot in young scholars, PhDs, postdocs, assistant professors, because you are the future. And we need to do, as an association, a lot of efforts to accommodate the needs of young researchers. And we are doing this in several ways. And I mean, this is one thing to do, this PhD workshop, but you might have, for those of you who already registered, there are 2 interesting documents in your package. One is a flyer, a 4-page flyer with facts and figures about the European Accounting Association. And there you'll see an overview of things we organize also for young scholars. The other document is a 30-page collection of articles on the history of EAA, and that might be, for those of you interested in history, might be interesting to read. But the more important thing is also the implications for the future are described there. So I hope you actually find a few minutes or an hour or so to actually read some of these articles or the whole collection of articles, because there you actually see how important we value quality of research, and we've done many actions in the last 40 years to improve the quality, but also diversity. And this is part of the design principles also of the PhD forum, that we try to look at plenary speakers and plenary sessions that are very important topics in accounting research. That's one thing, but also the plenary sessions should reflect the diversity of research and research methods. So this has been part of the design of the PhD forum. And this is what we also do at the EA Congress, that we actually have many, many different sessions to cater to different research paradigms and research philosophies. That's the only thing I wanted to say. So at the end, there will be a short lunch. And then, of course, you're all invited to go to the opening session, which is in the other building. So it's 5 minutes walk, where the early bird reception was yesterday. And then there we start at 1 o'clock. So enjoy the PhD forum and good luck for the speakers. Please.
Morning, everybody. My name is Mark Clatworthy, and this is Giovanna Michelon from the University of Exeter, and we are going to briefly introduce those of you who haven't yet seen it, the EAA Accounting Research Centre. This is a comparatively new initiative by the EAA. Indeed, Philip Hughes and Torsten is going to talk to you soon. Were instrumental in founding this part of the EAA's activities. And what we're going to do is just to show you some of the main features of the ARC. We have a few minutes to do that. We encourage you to visit the ARC website and to register if you haven't already done that. But in case you have any further questions, there's a desk at this Congress. There will be people at that desk where you can ask further questions. It's at the stand where the publishers are based. And so Giovanna is going to demonstrate some of the key sort of capabilities of the ARC. So this is the front page that you meet when you go to the ARC site, and you can see that one of the main things that one sees on there are the blogs that have been written by a variety of contributors on a very wide range of topics. One thing to emphasize is that as a member of the ARC, when you join it, anybody is free to contribute a blog or indeed to comment on the blogs that have been written there. So, for instance, we have one contribution from Niamh Brennan, who's talking about how financial communication is changing, how technology is changing this. So firms now have to communicate with a very wide range of stakeholders. This is based on a conference paper she gave at the ICW Information for Better Markets conference last December. So that's more of a subject-driven blog, but then we see that there are blogs like, for instance, Joachim Gassen recently. Some of you may have heard Joachim talking about this very interesting development in empirical research, where we have the ability and the facility to make many of our parts of our data sets available to outside users in a way that allows us to explore the sensitivity of empirical results to different changes in assumptions. Okay, so we don't end up confronted with one set of results where, left wondering, what sort of choices went into that. We have the ability to, as users, to change some of the assumptions as well. And it's a really interesting discussion, but he also makes available some very valuable resources for you to use as well. We have Christian Leutz last month also wrote a discussion of evidence-based policymaking in accounting. It's a very interesting discussion because what he does in this blog is to compare the differences between accounting and medicine. and how the two communities, for policy and regulatory purposes, rely on evidence. And he discusses some of the costs and the benefits of changing this approach. It's a very interesting discussion. So you can see that there's a range of contributors on a range of topics differing in style, but there's some very valuable material. Martin Luberink also has written a short entry on pandas and hierarchical indexing. My technical expertise doesn't extend to a detailed description of what he's done. I'm aware of it, but if you are inclined to work with this sort of technology, there are some very valuable resources on there as well about how you can manage data sets in a more flexible way than we are sort of accustomed to with packages like State. It's much more efficient using the approach that Martin recommends. So, and there's an archive on there going back much further with lots of other valuable contributions as well. So please take a look at them and feel free to offer some discussion and comments on them. You can see that they're being viewed quite extensively. Thank you. Then the next thing is the peer mentoring initiative. I'm not going to say too much. I think Beatrice is going to be. Beatrice is not here. Okay, well in that case, we'll say a bit more about this. This is a very important part of the EAA's activities. It's integrated within the ARC, but also involves a lot of very senior editorial people. And this is a resource available to all EAA PhD students. You can see the editorial team there. The idea behind this initiative is to allow PhD students to submit their proposals for detailed evaluation by very experienced, very constructive team of editors. And the idea is that when developing a proposal, if you get your set of research questions wrong at an early stage, it's quite difficult to then go back and change anything about that. Okay, so this is the key stage in the PhD process. And what this system does is allow you to submit your proposal for evaluation. There's some good guidance there on what sort of things are expected of a PhD proposal. You have one opportunity to submit your proposal through this system, and then you will get timely, constructive, and detailed feedback from very experienced editors, which will allow you to develop your work further. It's an extremely valuable opportunity. So again, please, you're encouraged to take a look at that initiative. Please do.
I just wanted to add to this because I think this is a very important service that the ARC offers. And I was shocked to hear at last weekend's doctoral colloquium, Bea Osma, who initiated this service, told us that it's extremely underused so far. It seems like people are not finding it or don't know about it. And the number of proposals that have been submitted so far, very few. So please take advantage of this. I mean, what's better than some experienced person reading your research ideas and giving you feedback on it? This is something that I think none of us can get enough of. And it seems like there's an information asymmetry at the moment about this service. And I can only encourage you to make use of it. Sorry, I don't want to.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Torsten. That's very helpful. As Torsten says, this is a free option. You get the feedback. You've got the option to do what you like with the feedback. But given the team of editors there, you're going to get some very valuable comments on what you do. And it would seem to be a waste not to take the chance if you have a proposal that's ready to be submitted. And I would say, please look at the side of the guidance to give you advice on how to deal with the process. But it's very clear. And thanks, Giovanni. There's detailed a set of events on the ARC. So if you're interested in attending a conference, you can look at the calendar. Or you can search by particular types of events, by time, by nature. And then, in the interest of time, we're not going to go through every aspect of it. I just want to mention a couple of things. Firstly, the repository, because if you have a look at this, you can see if you scroll down, Giovanni, I just wanted to mention some examples of the resources that are on there. There's a very useful guide for those of you conducting empirical financial accounting research. There's a very detailed guide by David Veenman on using Stata. He's got all sorts of examples of code in there and some technical advice. There are lots of other examples. Martin Messner from last year's forum put some slides on using interviews in accounting research, so it's across a range of different areas. And one thing I wanted to mention is that in order to access these resources, you have to be a member of the ARC. Okay, you have to register. So these are not available publicly. The blogs, on the other hand, are available to anyone. You don't need to be a member. But naturally, we encourage you to join, sign up to give you full access to all the facilities. One other thing, I know that we have 3 sessions after this, one on Python, one on audit research, one on Bayesian statistics. It's a tough choice to choose between those. And if you find yourself going to the Bayesian one or the audit one and you're interested in the Python resources by Tees, he's got a blog on the ARC where he makes available lots of this material freely. So if you do attend the other 2 and you couldn't make the Python one, then please have a look at the ARC for those resources. And I think, in the interest of time, I won't say much more about it, other than to briefly highlight that we have a forum on there, which, a bit like the PMI at the moment, is under use. The idea of this forum is for people to post topics for discussion, to invite comments from other researchers in the field. Again, you're encouraged to participate in this. And then there's a new, we have links to the EAA publications, and then recently we have been developing an opportunities part of this where we're going to be posting details of PhD funding opportunities, job opportunities, and also PhD exchange opportunities. That's literally just been added, and that's going to be developed over the coming weeks and months. And then finally at the home, there are the people involved in this. There are many people involved. Giovanna and I are speaking about it. You can see there's quite a large team. As I mentioned, Philip and Torsten have been instrumental in developing this, and there's a large number of people that are still involved. But it needs participation from you, and you're very strongly encouraged to engage with this. As Torsten says, there are some extremely valuable resources on here, and it's in everybody's interest to make the most of them. So come along to the desk if you have any questions. Please visit the site, and if you're interested in following the ARC and Twitter, we encourage you to do that as well. But thank you all very much. Thanks.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Salvador Carmona, and I am the organizer of the EAA Talent Workshop. The name of the Talent Workshop is something that we are using for the job market of accounting academics. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about, which is the rationale for the job market. I mean, what is the reason for that? And also trying to explain a little bit, how it works and which could be an opportunity for you. Okay, there are 2 interesting references in the wider field of economics. This is pretty old, but is very relevant. So there are a couple of references, one published in the American Economic Review and the other one in the Journal of Economic Perspectives by Frey and Eichenberger, where they were studying the markets of academics. And they did something very interesting in the sense that they identified 2 different kinds of markets. On the one hand, what they call the C market. C markets are competitive markets, and competitive markets are characterized by research productivity. They are quite impersonal. Okay, there is high mobility of academics in general, from one place to another place. This is mobility is driven by productivity and academic profile. On the other one, they have the regulated markets. Okay, the regulated markets feature something that has to do with a dominance of the schools of thought. This is something that we have witnessed in our country, in Spain, for many years, for example, and some other countries. I will not mention any other country, not to offend anybody. Okay, research evaluation is quite unclear. I mean, there is low mobility, and there is a weak competition. In the main, what matters most is the extent to which, you are a member of the school of thought. Okay, this situation is moving from the regulated markets in accounting to the competitive markets in accounting, and the European Accounting Association realized about this, and then what the European Accounting Association did was to launch a number of initiatives. We have been talking about that in terms of resources, the IRC, publishing and feedback, the first paper, the feedback, doctoral colloquium, and then I'm going to talk about mobility and the talent workshop, which is something that may be interesting for all of you in order to get a postdoc position or an assistant professorship position in the future. Okay, how it works. Okay, so in the past, we have had, as Miles Gitzman mentioned before, we have had 3 editions of the talent workshop in 2015, 16, and 17. As I will mention in a while, the next one will be held in November, on the 2nd and 3rd of November in Madrid again. Okay, and just to give you a sense of this, I think it's very important. In 2015, we have 40 candidates, and then we have 52 recruiters. So as you can see, there is a very good opportunity for all of you in order to get a position there. Okay, in 2016, 38 candidates and 60 recruiters, and in 2017, 47 candidates and 69 recruiters. Okay, if we have a look at the institutions, so we see that the institutions is a little bit lower than the number of candidates, but some institutions have more than 1 vacancy. Okay, so I think this is a very interesting market, and I think that the talent workshop is a good opportunity for you, to get there, and in the future to get a position as an assistant professor or as a postdoc, in another university. An important thing is that, for candidates, the talent workshop is free of charge. Okay, so all what you have to do is to submit your job market paper proposal, okay, your resume and a research statement. Okay, we will consider that. I'll say a little bit about which are the deadlines and so forth. But this is all what you have to do. Okay, so I think this is a good opportunity for young academics. If you want to get some more information about the talent workshop, this presentation is going to be available to all of you. Okay, just visit the website. There is also a video that was shot a couple of years ago, and I think it's quite interesting about what is the environment, which is a very friendly environment, I think, for everybody, so you don't have to get there, with the stress of searching for a position and so forth. I think all the institutions, realize that this is a very difficult thing for candidates, and we try to be as friendly as possible and try to create a very friendly environment for everybody. Okay, the job market is in all academic areas, financial accounting, management accounting, auditing, in all accounting areas. So no matter what is your field of interest, please, consider this as a possibility. Okay, the 4th edition, as I said before, will be held on the 2nd and the 3rd of November 2018. And I think that, again, as I said, for candidates, this is a free registration. The submission of your market papers, research statement and CV. Okay, the deadline is October 1st. If you have, this packet ready before October 1st, please submit this to us as soon as you can, because, we will get back to you with a decision earlier than that, so that you can plan your travel. Your trip to Madrid, properly. For the program, what do you have to do? Number one is, you will be scheduled for a presentation, 20 minutes presentation. There will be no Q&A. And then, your resume and research statement and job market paper will be available to recruiters. And the recruiters, we have a software package that will allow you to show interest, okay, for a given institution. So if you are interested in Bocconi, okay, you can click Bocconi, and then if Bocconi is interested in you, Bocconi will click on your name, okay, and then this is just a matter of scheduling an interview. And then interviews are scheduled on slots of half an hour, where you can expect that the recruiter is going to ask you questions for about what is your job market papers and things that they did not ask during your presentation. Okay, so in a nutshell, I mean, this is what I can tell you about the talent workshop. Of course, I mean, I am open to to any question that you can make to me during the breaks or at any other point in time. I mean, if you drop us an email, we will reply to you, of course, and we'll provide you with information about the job market. So thank you very much.
So as a next speaker in this, I want to introduce Sarah Kröchert. Sarah was on the job market last year and would like to share some of the experiences with you. And I think it's great to have first-hand insights into this from someone who actually attended and can give you some pointers on what to pay attention to and whether this is going to be worth your while.
Thanks a lot for the kind introduction. So good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah, and as Torsten said, so I was on the market this year, and I'll try to share a few of my experiences with you now. So before I start, maybe let me just briefly introduce myself. So I did my PhD in Berlin at Humboldt University. In between, I was visiting at Columbia University in New York. I was looking for a job both in Europe and the US, found a job, and I'll start working at Lancaster University in summer. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to tell you a little bit about how the market works. Because back then, so when I started to think about it, I felt like there's quite a lot of information to gather up front. And so while you listen to me in the next minutes, please be aware of that. So everything that I'm saying is highly subjective. These are all points that are the most important ones from my perspective after going through the market. If you talk to someone else, you'll most likely hear something completely different. But let's get started. So just a few words on the timeline or the time structure of the job market. You have to be ready for the market about a year before you start working in your new job. And in summer, you should be done with your job market paper. You should start preparing your job market package, which does not only include your own materials, but also recommendation letters. So make sure that you have letter writers. Make sure that these letter writers know about your deadlines. You should also think about your application strategy. So I quite consciously selected schools. Other people apply more broadly. And both are perfectly valid approaches. You should just find your own one, the one that's the right one for you. In September or early October, you submit your package for the talent workshop. And you also slowly start applying to schools, which means that, in essence, you're always applying twice. So schools have access to your package through the talent workshop, but they also expect you to directly submit it to them. In November, you go to the talent workshop. You present your paper, you'll have a lot of interviews, talk to a lot of people, and if you consider applying in the US, you'll submit your package to the rookie camp, which is the US equivalent of the talent workshop. The rookie camp takes place in early December, and by that time you should have heard back from schools. And some of these schools will invite you for flyouts, which means that you convince them in the interviews, you convince them with your presentation, and now these schools want to get to know you better. So they want to have you over for a whole day, during which, again, you'll present your job market paper, but this time in a workshop-style format, and you'll meet the whole faculty. And these flyouts can start before Christmas. My first flyout took place at the end of November, but most of them are scheduled for January and February. And then as soon as you've started the flyout season, you might receive an offer at any point in time. And while you might decide about these offers quite early in the process, most people I know, so including me, we decided to accept an offer at the end of February or March, meaning that then you finally have a job. And you still have some time until your new job actually starts. So that's the overall time structure. I want to try to give you a little bit an idea of what I consider the best parts of this whole process. So what are the actual fun parts? And so that's not really fun, but just one thing you should never forget, eventually you will find a job. And just try to remember that. And of course, I have to qualify this statement, but I do not know anyone who hasn't. And yeah, now the fun parts. So you will receive a lot of attention. When you think about these flyouts, when you're sitting in an office meeting, you will be sitting all day in office meetings. And in between, you have your seminar, you have lunch with faculty, you have dinner with faculty. And one of the most important topics in every conversation is you. Your research interest, your teaching interest, your goals, your interests that are unrelated to accounting and research, and your personality. So it puts you in a really unique situation, and just try to enjoy it a bit. The part I'm most grateful for is the number of people I met. And so I mean the number of incredibly nice, personable, incredibly smart people. And this is something that lasts. So when you think about about being an accounting academic, we are living in a very small world. And the people you meet during the market, most of them will be people that you'll meet for the rest of your life. And some of them will be future colleagues, so you might even have an office next to them. You might meet them in the morning at the coffee machine. Others will be future co-authors, so you might not work at the same school, but you still work together on projects. And this is where the talent workshop is extremely useful. You'll meet other job market candidates. So you'll meet other people who are in exactly the same situation as you are, share your worries, and who have exactly the same goal, just like finding a job. And maybe just to stress this point, so when the market was over for me, I started to talk to people I met for the first time while I was on the market. And we started talking about collaborating, about working together on projects. And so this is still going on. And I think it's just great. And then final point. So if you like to travel, you'll get to travel quite a lot. And you'll see nice places. And I guess this is something you can definitely enjoy. Okay, so these are the good sides. In order to be able to enjoy these good sides, there's some things you should take care of, some things that are, in a way, your responsibility. And the first one is try to be prepared. And by that I mean you need to know your paper, you need to know your talk, you need to know who you are talking to. So when you're sitting in an office meeting, you need to know what the person you're talking to right now is working on. You need to know what makes the school different you're at right now. And for this preparation, try to reach out to others. So I spoke a lot to candidates who were on the market a year before me. I turned to senior faculty, mostly my supervisor, my letter writers, and I had a lot of support from fellow PhD students at my home institution. And you need these people, sometimes just because you need someone to share your worries with, sometimes because you need a bit more strategic advice, and you'll also need someone who's going to listen to your prep talk, someone who's doing mock interviews with you, who really preps you. So don't try to do it on your own. Try to reach out to others. Then try to be organized. And so one example here is when making your travel arrangements. So you travel quite a lot. You'll go to Madrid for the talent workshop. You go to the schools for the flyouts. And when making these travel arrangements, try to have enough time to catch your trains, to catch your planes, to not be under time pressure. You'll be nervous anyway, so there is no need to increase that level of nervosity. And at the same time, you'll have to be flexible because sometimes it just does not work out. I was always lucky. So whenever something happened in my case, I was on my way home. So I had a flight that was canceled when I returned from Miami. My suitcase got lost twice, but I was on my way home. And, well, you might be unlucky, and then try to make the best out of the situation. And then there is this phrase, be yourself. And so when the market started for me last year, I didn't really like this phrase because I felt like people kept telling me, be yourself, and of course you're not yourself. You dress up, you prep your talk, you prep answers to every possible question you could get. So it didn't really make sense to me. But the further you get in the market, the more often you'll find yourself in different situations. I'd say in more social situations, in which people don't only care about research, but more about would you like to have a coffee with that person sitting in front of you. And this is something, just try to remember, the whole job market is about finding a match. So you want to find an institution where you enjoy working. Schools want to find people that fit into their accounting groups. And so don't be completely yourself, but whenever there's the chance for it, let others see who you are, who you'd be as a colleague on a daily basis. Yeah. So these are the things you should take care of. Then there are some, I call it the tough part, some not so fun parts of the job market. Not try to keep this short, but it's just something I think we should all be aware of. And first thing is, it's a very long process, and it's a very long process full of uncertainty. And we all, or most of us, I guess, risk-averse individuals, we do not like the situation that we do not know whether we'll find a job. Try to be aware of it. Try to be aware of the fact that eventually it's going to be over and you will find a job. It, to some extent, boils down to some very few important minutes. And these are the 20 minutes that you have in Madrid to present your job market paper. And so it's not true that these 20 minutes decide about your future job. But they are quite important when it comes to fly-out decisions, whether you get a fly-out or not. So try to somehow be aware of this pressure, but at the same time also you just also be aware of the fact that there are other factors that go into this decision. It can be physically challenging, and this is just something, don't underestimate it. So it's a long process, you'll be nervous quite often, you might have sleeping issues, you'll be traveling quite a lot. Allow for some breaks in between, let you just get some rest. And then anticipate that it might become strategic in the end. And by that I mean that, so most likely you'll receive offers before you've finished your flyout. And most likely some of these offers will be exploding offers, which means that you either have to accept or decline before you finish your flyout. So you might find yourself in a situation in which you have to decide about your future without even knowing your full set of options. And that's not ideal. But the one thing I learned is that no one liked this situation, neither candidates nor schools. And try to talk to schools. So I realized that schools try to extend deadlines, try to, if I say I'm not ready to decide yet, they try to get back to me after 2 weeks. So they understand that this situation is not the ideal situation and try to somehow accommodate your own timeline, your own schedule. Yeah, and with that, I'm done with the tough parts. Final comment maybe, so I think the most important thing before you go on the market is that you need to know whether you really want to be an accounting academic. And that's not, I mean, it has its disadvantages. So you will most likely not be able to pick the city where you would like to live. And as soon as you're an assistant professor, you'll have this tenure clock that is ticking. So there's a new form of pressure, right? But so personally for me, when I was thinking about it, I've just not come up with any other job that offers me so much time and so much flexibility to work on topics that I'm actually interested in. And I think this in an environment with very inspiring and interesting and smart people. And this is an assessment you have to make for yourself. If you reach a similar conclusion as I did, get ready for the market. Listen to others, always make your own decisions, and try to enjoy the good sides as much as possible. It's definitely worth it, it's a very unique experience. Good luck.